it was interesting watching your film, realizing just how dangerous it is, because I feel like narcissism is thrown around all the time now. Oh, he's a narcissist. He's a narcissist. Any bad relationship, yeah, they were a narcissist, which might be true.
Hmm.
But when we really look into the definition and what it means to be a narcissist at the highest level, it's extremely terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is the thing that it took me a while to understand. Why do all cults basically behave the same? Basically, it's different outfit and different words and different texts and different whatever. But it basically behaves the same way because there's a leader who has a pathology, and the pathology is pretty much the same. It's the same playbook every time. People say, like, do they go to school
they
to learn
compare
this shit? Like,
notes?
do they compare notes? Well, no, they have the same brains.
Yeah.
There's an absence of empathy. If you look at the DSM-5, there's 9 criteria of narcissism. I don't remember them, by the way. Remember, lack of empathy is one of them. Grandiosity, there's a whole bunch of them. But they're all pretty much the same. Even the ones that come across as humble, that are the covert narcissist or the vulnerable narcissist or the communal narcissist, words that are very similar, they are trying to get as much power as possible. Some will do it through suffering. There are cult leaders that are like, the world is against me.
Yeah.
Help me. Raniere did that a lot. I'm up against these terrible forces. There are some that are just completely grandiose. The reason I think that I missed Raniere, for many reasons, but one of them was that he had this, what I thought was humility. I didn't understand you can be very grandiose and use humility as a cover.
Yeah.
In fact, you're the most humble, which is another kind of grandiosity. Yeah. But they all have the same kind of brain, the same kind of nervous system. And then you add messianic delusions to cult leaders. Now they're God. They've supplanted whatever God is, the idea, the concept. Now they are God. And everybody is their subject. Everybody is their objects that they can do whatever they want with, because they are. Raniere always said, I have a peculiar kind of intelligence. I can never understand what he meant. And later I thought, because you think you're like above it all, I was convinced, by the way, in the trial that he was going to speak. He didn't. And he didn't because his lawyer said, please don't. They convinced him not to.
Oh my gosh. Because he would have ruined everything for
I think
himself.
He would have screwed himself so badly. But I was convinced, and I told the FBI, this dude's been waiting for this moment. I mean, he loves courtroom dramas. He would make us watch movies about courtrooms. He's waiting for his moment. And they didn't respond really. I thought, I'm telling you, it's going to happen. And then it didn't happen. And I found out later because the lawyers were like very strict. He had 5 lawyers. Don't send up. And I think in the end, maybe because they realized when he opened his mouth, what would come out would be so batshit that the jury would be like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Because he's pretty delusional. They all are very delusional.
But somehow smart enough to create this huge movement and this huge company to get everyone under his control. So how do you think that happened? Explain to people who don't know what NXIVM is, just so they have a general framework.
So NXIVM was the parent company. I was in something called ESP, Executive. I can't even say it. It's because I have an emotional block against it. Executive Success Programs. NXIVM was the umbrella company. We say NXIVM now because everyone says NXIVM. If I say ESP, people are like, I don't know what that is. It was basically a business school, right? It was a school to help build entrepreneurs. And what Nancy Salzman, the second in command, always said is, we're going to trick people onto the spiritual path. We're going to make it about business, but we're going to trick them onto the spiritual path.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I haven't spoken much about that. What the tech did, we talk about the tech, Scientology has a tech. What our tech did that was pretty amazing, I thought, was took all the things that you were attached to, all the stuff that made you unhappy or freaked out or whatever, and worked its way down into your subconscious to alleviate you of those attachments and those reactions. Mm-hmm. Sounds great in principle. But then it went further. They would say, if you react to somebody saying something about you and you have a bad reaction, that means you're attached to something. But if you have a good reaction, that also means you're attached to something. You think that if somebody says something nice about you, that means something about you. And you're all like, oh my God, I'm amazing. This is incredible. Well, that's an attachment as well. So the idea was to basically help everybody get rid of their attachments.
Yikes. But what does that mean in practice? Just everyone's neutral, monotone, not enjoying life, not hating it?
Dissociated.
Yeah.
Completely and utterly dissociated. Like every time you had a reaction, like let's say and this happened, I saw things that were problematic in the organization. I would get told, well, you're having a reaction. I'm saying, yeah, I am. But guess
Because
what?
it's problematic.
The thing I'm talking about is a problem.
Yeah.
So now what's happened when you build that structure, if you say, I think that thing's abusive, and they go, well, why would you say that? And they start to dig into you as though you're the problem, not the thing you're pointing at is abusive. So eventually what Raniere could do is anybody that had a reaction to the stuff he wanted to do to them was their problem.
Wow.
So if he wanted to sleep around with a bunch of other women, the one he was with, that was her jealousy, her attachment. She needed to like solve it. In fact, I'm not going to say a name, but one of them, you can't cut your hair until you resolve this. Eventually her hair was almost down to her feet. Like insane things he made people do.
Yeah.
Because their jealousy was unnatural. Because he wanted to diddle everybody. Well, every beautiful woman he wanted to diddle.
Yeah.
Not so much the men.
Well, then where is his line of ethics if he's supposed to be this ascended spiritual master?
What line of ethics?
But did he preach any sort of like, I'm above and I've achieved some sort of enlightenment?
Here's the trick, though. He never said that. Everybody else said that.
Uh-huh.
So he was very smart. He wouldn't say, I this, I that, I the other. He would have his inner circle, mostly the women closest to him, say it. So I remember once saying, there was something called a disintegration in the tech. If I say something to you and you have a bad reaction or a good reaction, that's a disintegration. You're not in reality. You're making a meaning out of something that's not there. It's not real. It's all in your head. That's a disintegration. And I remember one point saying, well, how many are there of these disintegrations, these disconnects with reality? And they said somewhere around, between 500 and 700. And then people would say, and what about Keith? Does he have any? And Nancy would say, I don't think so, Or you would, I remember once not meeting with him. And I got shut on because why wouldn't you meet with one of the greatest minds that ever existed? So you're like, he's never saying I'm the greatest mind.
Yeah.
They're saying it.
And he's expecting you to just roll out of bed at any time and come and film him, record him.
Yeah. I was also having meetings like twice a week. I was having meetings with him at like 3 a.m. It was 1:30 to 3 a.m. It was insane. I looked at my calendar the other day of when I was in.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like, no wonder everybody was so broken down. No wonder people were so sleep deprived. I can't even speak properly. That's so funny. I went into the calendar in my mind, and I think I have so much emotional stuff still that the minute I got the snapshot in my head, my mouth was like, ah.
Yeah.
It's interesting, doing this podcast series Instaguru that I'm doing, because I'm talking to so many survivors and victims, as you do. Like, I'm having all these dreams again about being back inside. And it's actually messing with my head a bit. Not that I wouldn't do it. I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
But it's bringing stuff back up. And I'm noticing as I try and think that snapshot of my calendar, my brain just shorted out for a second.
Yeah. The mirroring is the hardest part. I think the first year that I did this podcast, it was a lot. And I was having panic attacks. And I've never had a panic attack in my life. I didn't even know what it was. I was like, what's going on? Why do I feel this way? And then eventually learned that it was a panic attack.
Yeah. Like flashbacks.
Yeah.
Horrid.
So let's talk about how Keith fit into the narcissistic role, and how would you classify him based on all of your research now?
So I think I'm wild guess dark tetrad.
Okay.
Which is, I'm never going to remember this. Narcissism, Machiavellianism, sadism, and there was one more. Sadism as well. I think sadism, is the one that goes from dark triad to dark tetrad. That's the additional as well. He spoke about, in the tech, he spoke about something called the fall, which is basically a human being can do something, take the fall psychologically, and they get rewired in reverse where they feel pleasure at other people's pain.